Hello. Do you ever use a library? When was the last time you went to the public library? Is there one near you? Near me, there's quite a good one called Abista. I guess you know it if you're in Abico. It's a very good library, and even for English books, for an English speaker, it's pretty good. They've got about 500 books in English, maybe about 10 shelves. Um, and they've got a mixture of things about Japan and classic fiction in English. So it's pretty good considering this is in Japan. Um, but of course, we don't just use a library for borrowing books. It has other purposes. So that's kind of the point of this lesson is what is the point of libraries? These days, everybody has a smartphone. We don't buy many paper books these days, maybe. And Japan is maybe a rich country. You don't need to go to the library. Why do we need to have a library? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So to talk about this, let's have a look at some vocabulary. First one here, let me see, can you see vocabulary? It says archive. I think you use that in Japanese, and on computers we talk about archiving material. Saving something, saving documents, and you put them all in an archive. And in the traditional archive will be a great big room full of documents, full of papers, government documents, or your personal information. So governments have an archive. And that's maybe, well, it's very important for governments because they want to tax people. They want to know who owns what land, how much money they have in the bank, that kind of thing. That is all kept in an archive. So there are many reasons to have an archive, but that's one of the first ones. A record. Record? Well, there's different meanings of record. Record is a 45 RPM or 33 RPM record, for listening to music. Or it's breaking a record when you run very fast. Not me. Or it's another way of talking about an archive. If you record, or if you use it like a verb to record, I am recording my voice on this image now, and then we will keep that like a noun as a record. This is now a record. I record, and then this will be a record of this lesson. So I can keep this video in an archive, in a video archive, kind of on YouTube, isn't it? If you go to YouTube and you look at the Tower Talk topics, there's an archive or playlist of all the videos of me talking to the camera. Okay, so that's keeping a record. Now, another word to use is the authorities. Authorities means government or people in control. So the police is a kind of authority. The government is the authority around here. Now, another word to use here, the next one is marginalized people. Marginalized people are minorities, not the majority. The majority, well, in England, the majority are white people. The minority would be Asian or Indian descent people, and black. Now, marginalized means pushed to the side. A margin, like on a piece of paper, if you have lined paper, you get your ruler and you draw a margin where the holes are and so you don't write on that part. If you imagine, then the majority of the paper is for writing, and then that bit is the margin. If you're a marginalized person, you've been pushed into the corner. People don't listen to your voice, maybe. In America at the moment, that's Black Lives Matter. Black people are feeling very marginalized, right? The reason I mention these words, there's been a long history. I've been just reading a book, I'll tell you about it in a moment, but there's a long history throughout civilization for the last 3,000 years of authorities marginalizing people. And one of the ways they do that is to delete their records. Don't keep a library about them. Now, for example, I've written on here, Jews, Muslims, Japanese Americans. Wow. For example, in the Second World War, in Europe, the Nazis took over Europe for 5 years, and they wanted to kill all the Jews. And one way they'd started was they tried to destroy all of their documents, all of their archives, all of their history, because their thinking was, well, if you destroy their history, then they have no future. They don't know about themselves. Very terrible, really. So first they came for their documents and tried to destroy them, and then tried to destroy the Jewish people, killed 6 million people in Europe. That's one example. Another example, excuse me, Muslims in recently in Sarajevo, in it used to be Yugoslavia, when Yugoslavia had a civil war, and it was Serbia, the area of Yugoslavia, against Bosnia. Bosnia was a mix of Christian and Jewish and Muslim people, and they had a great library in Sarajevo. The Serbian troops, who were sort of Christian, I guess, they came in there, and the first place they attacked was the library. They wanted to destroy it, and they shelled, firing guns at the library. Why? Because they wanted to destroy the history of the Muslim people in that area. They failed, but they did destroy the library. I've written down here Japanese Americans too, as an example of marginalized people. In the Second World War, because Japan and America was fighting, there were many Japanese Americans, Japanese heritage people, people who came from Japan originally, but have lived in America for a generation, 2 or 3 generations. They were marginalized. They were made to be the enemy. They were taken away and locked up in prison camps in places like Arkansas and the desert, Arizona. The point is that the minorities can be marginalized. And one way that they do that is authorities can do that is by destroying the records and keeping secrets all the things they did. It's becoming important now as well because things are going digital, all onto computers. And I've written here Twitter feed. You know, when you write Twitter, on Twitter, that's called a Twitter feed, your list of things. For example, now we have the current president, Trump. He spends a lot of time on Twitter saying crazy things. He's the president. But of course, it's only Twitter. He can delete it. And then there's no record of what he said. And so if you want to say, well, Trump said this, it's not there. He's deleted his own archives. And not only Trump, we all do that. And it's a question, who controls the information? If you have no libraries, the only information we have is like Twitter and Google and, I don't know, things on Amazon, which is okay, but they are not public companies, public bodies. They are private. And if they decide to delete their records, their archives, they can. It's their money. So, and then everything that we have written and thought about will disappear. That's the question. So that's maybe why the point of having a library. Now, a lot of these ideas I got from this book here called Burning the Books by Richard Ovenden, an English guy. A History of Knowledge Under Attack. It's very good. If you ever get a chance, read it. And it talks about all the times that people have tried to destroy libraries and the way that librarians have hidden books or tried to save human knowledge. One of the points he makes in this book is, first, the authorities, they destroy the books. Next, they will destroy the people. So it's important to keep the books first. Don't let them get to the books, because next, they'll come for the people. Okay, just some thoughts about libraries. Okay, well, here's some questions. A bit easier question. Number 1, do you use a library? Why or why not? I don't need a full stop, sorry. Number 2, if you had your own library, what would you keep in it? God, it's terrible typing. What would you keep in your library? I've got some books here. I need to arrange them, put them in an archive. What would you keep? Would you keep books, CDs, digital library? Which brings on to number 3, do we need a library of the internet? What would that be? Can we record everything on the internet? So many millions of things happening every second. I don't know, interesting. Interesting to me anyway. Okay, good luck with these questions and I'll talk to you soon, okay? Good luck.